Oh. So I think we can start.
Right.
Welcome everyone. Welcome Liam. Thank you so much for taking the time today to meet with us. And actually, we need to wait 1 second because my fire alarm might go off in a second. No, it's not. Perfect. So welcome to Restaurant Collective. Let me share my screen. Just 1 second. Bear with. Okay. Share screen. And slideshow. So hopefully you can all see my screen. As you can see, today we're discussing working smarter, not harder, with the lovely Liam Jones from Pilla. But let's start with a welcome. So welcome to everyone who's joined in today. Just a bit of housekeeping, just to keep your cameras off and your microphones on mute. And we'll have time for questions at the end. But if you have any pressing questions that you want to share with us, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Restaurant Collective is here to champion, support, and connect hospitality. So we were created to help independent hospitality in the UK. And we offer a wide range of assistance from deals in our deals marketplace, and Pilla is kindly on our deals marketplace as well, where you can save from hundreds to thousands of pounds. We offer SPWs, so your visibility is greater online, so you can stand out. We offer kind of assistance in any way, and we're trying to create a community. So please join us, and I'll send a link to our join page at the end of our session. Today we're with Liam Jones. Hi, Liam.
Hi.
Thank you so much again for being with us. And I was wondering if you could give us a little background on you, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. So, as you mentioned, my name is Liam Jones. So I'm the founder of a software web app called Pilla. And the reason which we're so engaged with the Restaurant Collective is because our target market is exactly the same. So we deal exclusively, and we've built the app exclusively for independent hospitality. So the app is built with the pain points in mind of, somebody who just set up their dream coffee shop up to about the size of sort of a local independent restaurant chain of about 4 or 5 restaurants. The pain points and challenges for those, they're very different to what a chain would go through. So we built the app specifically for that. So we are a new business. The app has only been launched, I think it's about 12 weeks now. It's going really well. And the goal of the app is to be the first all-in-one back of house solution for independent hospitality, which doesn't exist.
And so why did you create this app? What kind of affiliation do you have with hospitality that made you think, oh, you know what, these guys need this?
Yeah. So my sort of career experience with hospitality is I'm a bit of a latecomer to the industry, really. So I've been in processes and systems sort of all of my life, really, mainly in construction. But many of my long-time friends have gone on to set up coffee shops and restaurants and things like that. So I've always been in and around the industry, spending a lot of time in the industry. I'm from a corporate background. I was trained in corporate multinational businesses, and it was always obvious to me from conversations with my friends, basically, that what I was benefiting from in corporate land didn't exist in the independent community. And the independent community was basically struggling along with antiquated systems and trying to sort of botch things together with integrations that worked one day and not the other day, and it was costing far too much money and this, that, and the other. So we set up the business. So I sold my stake in my previous business, and we set up this business and started trading in October 2019. So we had 3 months under our belt before the first lockdown, which was just a horrendous time to start a business. So We're a couple of years behind on our business plan, to be totally honest with you, because during COVID we couldn't really get any funding, so the product wasn't able to be fully created. So we've been really properly going for about a year or so now, and we launched the app, as I say, about 12 weeks ago.
Well, I mean, I agree with you that hospitality seems to be behind on technology, and as you said, kind of clamoring things together, and kind of it's always seeming to patch up things, or to work things together instead of having really easy to use apps that are literally just there to help you. So I think that's great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So I have some questions, surprisingly. I'd really love to know what Pilla is, and I think you have something to share with us. So I'm going to stop my share screen and let you jump on there to kind of give us a little breakdown what Pilla is.
Yeah, well, what I thought I'd do is I've created a sort of a 20-25 minute presentation on which will answer what Pilla is, but we'll answer the broader question of what we're here to talk about today, which is about working smarter and not harder. So what I'll do is I'll use Pilla as a base and how that can be done essentially with Pilla. But what we're talking about today is foundations and principles more than anything. So if you do have another system, or you're looking to create your own system to basically achieve that, work smarter, not harder, these are the things which we believe that you need to incorporate into that. So we've got one slide here which I'll go through, and then we're going to jump into the app so I can show you some examples of how you might do that essentially.
Thank you.
So I've broken these points down into two separate sections: working smarter, not harder. This first section is about some of the sort of underlying principles that you would want to put in place in order to save time and get as much out of your resources as possible, really. You obviously want to be as organized as you possibly can. You wouldn't believe how many of our customers sort of waste hours and hours and hours by just not knowing where things are. It's such a trivial point, but the more organized you can be from the outset, you will undoubtedly save a ridiculous amount of time in the weeks and months ahead. Okay, that's the first point. The second principle, if you like, is to use, this is what we were just talking about, to use as few systems as possible. So large chain organizations have the benefit of a really well-structured management team, a really sort of expensive IT department, and they can leverage that in order to use multiple systems and just basically integrate with those systems. So they might have a rota system, they might have a compliance system, this, that, and the other. And that will work for them because they've got the resources to do that. A small independent doesn't have all those resources. So the important thing to do is to use as few systems as possible, which will save you a massive amount of time. And the third principle is to set and forget when able. So basically that means if you can do a piece of work once, and then that piece of work will work for you, then that you should do that. And I'll show you some examples of that later. Moving on to the second group of points, what you want to do is you want to create an operational blueprint for your business, which means that you and your staff know what needs to be done at each point in each day. Okay, you want to try and work out the perfect day, the perfect week for your business, and then just repeatedly carry that out and improve it over time. The second point is you want in this section is you want to make it as easy as possible for your team to carry out. So you want to have this blueprint which is repeatable, easily repeatable, but you want to make it as easy to carry out as possible. And then the third thing is you want to understand when things go wrong. You want a way for your staff to inform management of when things have gone wrong, and you want to be able to easily rectify them, essentially. So they're the principles. I'm going to jump into the app now, if that's okay with you, Isabella, and just kind of show you a little bit of
absolutely
what that would look like. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I'm not going to go through everything on the app. I'm just going to go through a couple of the key features which we'll highlight some of these things that we've just spoken about. Now, as I said to you, well, I'm sure there will be people watching this who don't use Pilla, and maybe don't want to use Pilla because they've got another system or they want to build their own system. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can create your own system to do this if you are so inclined. But this will hopefully give you some inspiration of how you can do that. So the first thing we spoke about is organizing yourself. So if I scroll down to the little section here, this is called our document builder. This is a step-by-step guide through the process of creating really complicated documents. So risk assessments, HR policies, all that type of thing. You can create all that within the system. But not just that, you can also save everything within the system as well. So our customers don't use Dropbox, they don't use OneDrive, they don't use 1,700 different folders on their desktop. They all use Pilla to store all of their files. That means that if management needs to grab a file, they know exactly where it is. And I've started with this point because it sounds quite trivial, but it's really, really important.
Well, when you're thinking of all the different places you have things saved and having like a central place that everyone can access who you want to have access, and you know it's there, that's actually quite time saving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you could recreate this in a Dropbox if you wanted to, but I just want to press home the point that you should have everything really well organized from the beginning. So if you need to go back and redo this in months to come, you're gonna waste so much time. I'm going to kind of skip the second point a little bit because that's about using as few systems as possible, because I'll just keep referring back to that. But the third point in that first cluster, if you like, was about setting and forgetting. So one thing which is which our system does, which is a really important point, is anything with a date. So whether that's an adoption policy, a training record, anything at all with a date, the system will remind you when that's due for renewal. So if my training record was due for renewal in 30 days, my manager would get an email today to say that it's due for renewal. And the same with anything else as well. So that basically means I don't have to keep going back in to check when things need to be reviewed. My data is basically working for me. So if you don't use Pilla, you should really find a way where you can make your data and your systems work for you. You don't really want to be inputting data all the time. You want to make your system work for you, essentially. So that's the first cluster, which is about having everything in the same place. We've obviously got other things within the system. I could give you one more example of that. So this is our maintenance, facilities maintenance section. So this is where we would input all of our fire alarm checks, all of our cleaning rotas, all of our cost inventories and this type of thing. Okay, and again, we're working on the same principles of making sure that we're told when something needs to happen. Okay.
That's incredibly useful, because I think people who aren't in hospitality don't realize how many things you need to adhere to. So, fire alarm, have you cleaned your kitchen to the certain specifications, your fridges, all of that, health and safety, training, alcohol licenses, all of these things. And I think people don't realize how much there is to juggle. Insurances, and even just knowing your renewal dates coming up, and you can make informed decisions instead of having rolling on contracts paying more and more and more. I think that's incredibly valuable.
And you know what, as well, there's something to be said here about just releasing some mental capacity for the owner or the manager or the senior leadership team or whoever it is. And I know from personal experience as well that when you run a business, you just need to get things out your head.
Yeah.
You get them out your head. You need to get them onto something, so you can either move on to something else or create that kind of space to do a bit of strategic planning or whatever it is. Because if you constantly bog down in the operations and having to check things and do this, that, and the other, there's no room for anything else.
No, absolutely. And also being reminded of so many things before they need to happen. As we were saying with the insurance, for example, with anything else, you can kind of make more informed decisions without having to make rushed decisions where you might end up spending a bit more. And if you have to do that with every single thing, then it all adds up in the end.
Massively, 100%. So the second point that we had was about creating sort of a perfect day, if you like, or a perfect week. So how we do this is, and generally how every business will do it in some way or another, is through checklists. So if I just go to the top tab here, this is where you'll see our digital checklists. So the vast majority of new customers that we bring onto the app are converting their paper-based checklists to digital checklists, and there's loads of advantages to that. You know, it's much easier to store, it's easier to see at a distance, it's easier to get reporting, all that good stuff. It's cheaper as well. But a lot of businesses will either have a blueprint in their head and they just know what happens on a Tuesday morning, or they'll have it down on paper, but the next step for them is to create some sort of digital checklist. So what you want to do is you want to make it as easy as possible for your staff to carry out the perfect day. So if all the management team, God forbid, was struck down with, you know, COVID or whatever it was on one day, how easy is it for your staff to come in and just know exactly what needs to be done? So what you can see in front of you is an example of what 3 checklists might look like for this particular example site, which I put together this morning. So what happens is when you sign up to Pilla, is the system will create your compliance checklist for you based on some questions that it asks, such as whether you cook food or that type of thing. So if I just click on this little bottom one and I open that, you can see that this has compiled all of my compliance daily checklist. So everything from opening checks in the morning, all the way through to my equipment temperature checks here, all the way through to if I'm hot holding, my hot holding checks, my cooled food checks, etc., and then through to closing checks. So that's all there prescribed for me for one day. So my staff know exactly what needs to be done from a compliance point of view. Now, you don't have to use this template. This is just something we create for you automatically when you join. You can create your own templates. And as you can see, I've created some examples above here. So I've got a set of opening checks. I've just got three short examples. So send the banking, check the rota, order bar stock. And I've got some closing checks here, cash up, send daily report, or whatever it might be for you. But once you've created these, you've basically got a prescribed list of things that need to be done throughout the day, and your staff will basically just go through and tick all these off. Okay, everything gets timestamped, and they can't miss anything, which is the big point really. You want to make this as easy as possible for any member of staff, whether they're new entry or not.
Just a quick question on this. So there'd be the central checklist, and do you assign things to certain people, or would they have their account? So if I take off opening first aids fire warden on shift, when I check it off, would it say Isabella has checked off?
Yeah. So the system knows, so you can assign things, yeah, and the system knows when a check was completed, who completed it, so it knows you're signed in, Isabella, so you've completed it, and it knows when it was completed as well, which is really important. And we've also got a dashboard as well, which collates a lot of this information and provide reports as well, such as if things haven't been completed on time and that type of thing. But the second point that we had was make it easy. Now, obviously, you're making it quite easy if you've got a list of things to do. But we think you should go one step further, and you should actually prescribe exactly how that check should be done as well. So if I click on morning fridge temp here, I haven't got the option to just tick this off because we want to record the temperature on this particular thing. So if I click on the pen, we've got some guidance here which says exactly what the law says about it. And then we've got a sort of a drop down here, which gives really, really specific guidance on what we're looking for from this particular check. So if I just drop a number in there, so I've just taken my fridge temperature. I'll say it was 4.5 degrees. Okay. That's now added the digital paper trail started the digital paper trail for me. So as you can see, the system has pulled my name through, today's date and time, the date that I've just recorded as well. So my staff member can't really go wrong there. There's no real room for error there, to be honest with you, because they've got a full description and they've only got the options that are available to them on the drop down, so they can't put anything else in really. We've limited we've made it so easy for them to do. And the last point is understand why things go wrong and make it easy to escalate. So let's say, for argument's sake, I'm going to come out of this one now. I'm just going to complete that. Let's open another one. Let's say, for argument's sake, this fridge temperature was 9 degrees. Okay, that's a problem because the legal limit's 8.
Yeah.
So therefore, we would need to do something about that. So you want to make it as easy as possible for your staff to let you know when things go wrong. How we do it, okay, you can do it in another way if it's better, if it's beneficial for you. But how we do it is staff can hover over this little button here underneath their record, and they can email that straight to their manager. So let's say, for argument's sake, Tiger Woods was my manager.
Congratulations.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I could do some lessons, to be honest. And I could send an email just straight from in here, and Tiger would get an email to say Liam Jones has reported the problem. He's highlighted an issue. Fridge 2 is 9 degrees, and he knows he needs to do something about that then.
Fantastic. And you don't need to write a comment. It would just...
So what you do then is you would highlight the issue.
Okay.
Yeah, highlight the issue. It turns red. It then gets added. Oops, sorry. Let me just click on that one. It then gets added to the dashboard as well. And Tiger would go away, he'd fix that, he'd come back in here, you know, in an hour or so, he might come in and he might say, moved all of the food out of fridge 2, put it into fridge 3, and then, you know, fixed. And then you've got a full digital paper trail then.
Fantastic.
Click on complete. Now, a full digital paper trail is really, really important, but it's not obviously the theme of today's webinar. We're talking about getting the most out of your resources, really. So what the thing to really take from that is you need to make it as easy as possible for people to escalate problems to you.
I've got a great question from Henry, and it's quite relevant in this moment because we are on your app. He asks, will employees use an app on their phones for this? How do they access this? Because I think that will help simplicity as well, if they're not having to go onto a central computer where everybody needs to log in.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. So what we've done is we've made it what's called a web app. So it basically works on any device that's connected to the internet. So you log in at the back end of our website. And then what that enables it to do is it's optimized for any device. So we're currently looking at this on my quite big desktop, to be honest with you. But if I was to open this on a tablet, everything would kind of shrink down. And if I was to open it on a phone, everything would shrink down to phone size, basically, to put it in layman's terms. So you can use this on any device you want. So really, that's a good point, actually, because the operator would need to decide what type of device solution they wanted. A lot of our operators will have a tablet, a front of house tablet, or maybe their POS if it's connected to the internet, a back of house tablet, and then they'll use phone as a backup. Some other people just use phones. It really depends on what you want to use, but you can use it on any device.
Because I think that also saves time having I mean, everything is turning digital nowadays. So I think a lot of
Yeah,
hospitality is investing in hardware to run all the kind of software that they're investing in.
yeah.
So it's good that it works on all of it.
And then I've got two last things to share with you as well. So we've also, so these are the checklists where 90% of the work is probably done on our app, to be honest with you. But we've also got two other features. One is called tasks. And this is where you set a task for anybody. Now, one of the things which we found in hospitality is usually, so we're talking about quite high level tasks now rather than sort of checks, if you like. So if I wanted you, Isabella, to create a new food safety management system or something, traditionally I might just email you and then just hope that you do it, and I'd have to remember to kind of check that you've done it in a week's time. So instead of that now, I would send you a task, you would get an email to say you need to do this task by this date. And if you haven't done it by the date, the system will chase you automatically to say you still haven't done it, you still haven't done it, you still haven't done it. The goal being it's now out of my head, so I can move on to the next thing. So I'm just circling back on what I was saying before. If you're not using this, find a way to make your system work for you in the background. It's not really a system if you've got to keep putting inputs into it, if that kind of makes sense.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And as you said, freeing up your mind so you can work on the tasks that you need to work on. And so would you work on it? So you said that there was file management. So if I were to create this food safety compliance document, would I then just check it off that I've done it, or would I pop it in here, which automatically would check that off?
Depends on whether it's something you can create on the system. So if I go back to this policy builder and I click on food safety, you can actually create a food safety management system on here. Now I could actually assign that task to you from here. So I could click on assign to. I could select your name. I could give it a due date, excuse me, and then I could just assign that task to you from here. And then once you've done it, it would save in here then. But I can also assign a task to you about anything else off platform. So I might assign a task to you that says, do that tender for the local festival by next Saturday, or whatever it is. So what we're trying to do is back to what I was saying before, use as few systems as possible. We're trying to get most of, if not all of the work done in here, really.
And I mean, when I was working in hospitality, everything was very much paper-based. But I know that a lot of people are still working a lot on paper, and that also just takes up space and health and safety and all of that. So it's actually really nice to see a place. So when your inspector comes, for example, when you get that lovely surprise inspection, you can just pop everything up on here. And would it be easy to share your kind of, for example, fridge temperatures or anything that you needed to show the inspector? Would they accept a document like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So they have to accept any system which is don't want to get too technical here, but they have to accept any system which basically manages the critical control points, it's called, which is the food safety way of saying your food safety hazards, if you like. This date is not correct because I've just created this fake account this morning, but this is basically where you would show your data to the HOs. This is the dashboard. I can see sort of the last 7 days, the last 30 days, and the last 90 days for my fridge temperatures, freezer temperatures, dishwashers. I can see how many times a fridge went over the legal limit, for example. So I can present all that really, really easily, which is something you just can't do on paper. You just can't do it on paper at all.
No, I mean, we were rushing around writing on booklets. It's it just doesn't look good, but I think this one is a much easier way of storing and presenting.
We're going slightly off topic, but it's a fantastic point as well, because 1/3 of your food hygiene rating is based on what is called confidence in management. And that basically means how confident is the EHO that you've got a food safety system that is, again, going back to our point, is prescribed and is easy to implement and is understood. So if when the EHO come in, if you can present all this to them all in one easy place, confidence in management goes through the roof.
No, of course. And I mean, and it's just, as you said, not on your mind. Because at any time some compliance officer comes in, you're covered.
Yeah. So that's kind of it for me, really, Isabella. I wanted to keep it nice and short, really. And as I say, it's more about kind of principles more than anything. That every hospitality business is different, so there's more than one way to kind of get the most out of your resources. But I think I've tried to take like a top level view, really, and just give some sort of general ideas that I think people should be implementing.
So I've got a question on from the guys. So question number 1 is, which of the 4 main sections of the Pilla offer is most attractive to restaurants? So what's the thing that you've seen has been the biggest hit with restaurants?
From our app, do you mean?
Yes.
Good question. Yeah, I mean, the compliance nature of it is always massive. So we've got sort of a 12-month roadmap between now and sort of the end of next year, let's say, where we intend to get every single part of back of house onto the app. So we've got rotas and holidays coming on over Christmas. We've got inventory management coming on. Also, we've got budgeting and finance. That's in Q1. And then we've got some other exciting bits, e-learning and things like that next year. So, as I say, we're building an all-in-one app. But the thing which will always be really high is going to be that compliance. A lot of the other things will improve the business. But one thing which is always high is people want that 5-star hygiene rating. So making sure that the checklists and the food safety management system that we've got in place and everything like that is really, really important. So I think that's probably one which people always ask about whenever we speak to new customers.
And I mean, compliance is so important and it's such a weight on your shoulders. So knowing that you have a checklist and there's no way you could go wrong unless there's some kind of disaster. But there's no way you could go wrong day to day because you've created your checklist is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
A question from Henry: how does the pricing work?
Yeah, good question. So we've got it's all transparent pricing on the website. We've got two tiers at the moment. We've got one which is all about the minimum amount of tools that you would need to operate. So it's basically everything that you've seen minus the automated emails, sending documents, tasks, and remind. It's actually, but that first level is actually everything that you need to do without the work smarter section, what we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
And then we've got the optimized plan, which includes all of the features for working smarter. So automated emails, sending documents, tasks, reminders, collaborating within the app and things like that, really.
So you're working smarter, not harder, is the automations that your system offers. So the base Pilla is your checklists, everything that you would need to be compliant. But what we're talking about today is removing things from your plate and using an automated system that can help you free up mind space and free up your staff's mind space to working on the compliance. Okay, there we go. Exactly
that. And the reason we did that is because we need to be accessible to everybody within that independent scope. So if you have got, we do deal with coffee shops and only one person works in that coffee shop. So they don't need some of the automation because they haven't got anyone to automate with or collaborate with. So that first tier that operate is generally for the smaller ones with a really small team. And then the optimize is what we've been talking about today, and that's kind of getting the most out of every single day, really.
And with Restaurant Collective, you're offering a reduction on the cost, which is great. I believe it is 10% discount for Restaurant Collective members. So that's a really, really good cost. Question from Paul is, any way to quantify the benefits of working for independents smarter in terms of cost saving, time savings, and revenue?
That's a good question. We are working on that at the moment, actually. Yeah. So the cost savings one is quite easy, actually. We haven't published any of this yet, but the cost savings one's quite easy, particularly when you consider one of the points which we spoke about as using as few systems as possible. So obviously with us bringing everything to one app, a big part of that is making it all of that much cheaper for independents, because if you build a tech stack which has got 4 or 5 different suppliers in it, you're going to be paying £100 there, £100 there, £100 there. All of a sudden, you might have a great tech stack, but you're paying £700, £800 a month for it. Whereas what we aim to do is bring everything into one place. In 12 months' time, the app may be £150 a month or whatever it might be, but it's going to be considerably less than having it sort of a patchwork quilt of software. So we haven't quite finished that yet. We haven't finished any of this, Paul, yet, but we will publish some of this yet. And then the second one regarding time savings, we're actually building a time savings calculator for the website at the moment, which is a really interesting piece of work. And we're asking, so it's a bit sort of a slider feature on the website, and asks you things like how many staff have you got, how many sites, how many fridges have you got, how many this, how many that, and you basically play around with the sliders, and then it'll tell you how much time you can save by using the app. So to answer your question, we're working on it, but we haven't got anything to publish yet.
That's a really, really cool idea, to actually show people you have saved half an hour this week just on using our site. I'm sure it will be more, but I think if you can quantify visually how much time you're saving just because of using an app, I think that will be a really big kind of success, and people love seeing how much they've saved in any way, shape, or form. So I think that would be a really cool feature to have on the website.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll have that just in the new year.
Another question from Jeremy is, which section of the hospitality businesses have been the most receptive? Pubs, mobile vendors, pop-ups, gastropubs, restaurants, cafes?
Restaurants are massive. We found that restaurants are the first to adopt change. Generally, that's what we found. Don't know whether that's everybody's findings, but they're the quickest to adopt new technologies. They're the most willing to implement change. That's what we found personally. So restaurants are great. Second to that, probably coffee shops. Maybe because there's just so many of them. But coffee shops are a really good market for us. And then after that, I'd probably say bar / pub, probably.
I think maybe also restaurants have slightly more compliance issues. So, I mean, it's definitely something that will alleviate that for them. Another question from Paul, which is a great point, is why just independents? This could work well for larger groups and chains as well.
Yeah, could do, definitely. There's nothing inherently within the app that would stop a chain from using it as such. I guess there's 2 points to it, really. The first is that's what our values as a business is to support entrepreneurship, and the best way for us to do that is to focus on the smaller end of the market. A lot of our content that we produce, like we have our own podcast, for example, where I interview a founder of a small business every single week. So that's all, I guess, with the goal of promoting the leaders of tomorrow and the next generation. And so we believe in supporting small business and independent business. And the second reason is because we're building this all in one. We're solving the biggest problem for independence, because, like I said before, the Revolutions of the world and all these other big chains, they've got the resources to implement several other hospitality software, and there are great other pieces of software out there. You've got really, really good ones that are available to chains, but they're very expensive. They're very, very feature heavy. So an independent wouldn't use all the features, and they would have to spend a lot of time and money implementing them all in one place. So it's mostly for independents. But what I will say is, we're not anti-chain. We're just pro-independent. Now, what we've actually said is we haven't had this problem yet, but there will be a time, I'm sure, when a chain, and how you define a chain is another conversation. But if a chain wanted to use Pilla, we would allow that. We would take on that customer, but we would reinvest 100% of the revenue into a independent project, into a community project.
That's a really, really nice nice thing to hear. And I think chains have a lot of infrastructure already behind them, and they can create their own. They have huge teams behind them, and to hear that you would reinvest into independent hospitality is great.
Yeah.
And Restaurant Collective is also really pro independent hospitality, because it is the fabric of our community. Without diversity, we don't really create a rich community. So we love that point. Another question is, if a group or chain adopted the Pilla, would the Pilla solution allow head office to monitor that each separate operation?
Yeah.
So would the head office be able to monitor?
Yeah. So we do. We have customers with 4, 5, 6 locations, 7. We've actually got one customer with 34 sites. That's our biggest customer. A coffee roaster and a coffee shop customer. So they manage the data for all their sites independently. It's dead easy. All you do is you just essentially there's a drop down basically, and you just select each site, and it just brings up the data for that site. So yeah, absolutely. It's really, really easy to do, and that is a big benefit actually of going digital and dropping the paper-based solution, because you can obviously you don't have to physically be in a place to check what's going on in the place, essentially.
Well, I was about to say that's incredibly time saving, because if you have 30 locations, and even if you have 4, if you want to monitor what's happening on a day-to-day and make sure that everybody's compliant, make sure that the stock is there, and that the fridges are on the right temperature, and that I don't need to call a maintenance man, what better way than to have an overview of that at your fingertips?
Exactly that, yeah.
No, so that's really good. I think we are done on questions, and I think what's great to see with this working smarter solution is just giving space for waiters and waitresses to know what they need to do and when. And I was saying to you earlier before we started this call, it's becoming really noticeable in hospitality now that people are being hired, and 3 minutes later they're being thrown into the deep end with no idea of what they're supposed to do, or what they're what what they need to do and when. So I think an app like this will be really, really useful for training new staff, because we're seeing a staffing recruitment drive happening at the moment because of our staff shortages, and sometimes it is overwhelming when you have several staff to train and you can't think of, oh, have I remembered to train them about ice and the storage of that, and just the small things, and you can have all your checklists there and ready. And as you said, you can have your training documents ready. So have I trained Henry on how we order our bar stock? Okay, I have. Or have I trained Henry on how we, take the fridge temperature? So you know all of that. And I think that is the epitome of working smarter and not harder, because if you didn't have any of this in place, then how would you keep that going? So I think it's a really great solution for the people for hospitality operators who are kind of struggling at the moment, either with a shortage or with new staff and not being 100% sure on how you're training them.
The other thing as well is it's very, very difficult to get staff at the moment, which is what you're saying, but the margins are being squeezed so much in hospitality at the moment that many people couldn't even afford new staff if they wanted them.
Exactly. And I think if you have the best overview you can have on your business, you can make also more informed decisions, like we were saying earlier, knowing when your renewals are, knowing when when certain things expire, certain things run out. So you can make that informed decision and say, okay, well, I'm going to go with this company now because they're offering this and it's on a temporary basis. So I can input there 3 months free supply of tomatoes. And then you know that, okay, that runs out. Should I look for another offer, or should I, So I think with this automated system, you can really, really take advantage and try and save time and money, and time doesn't come back. So no, I think it's a fantastic app, and I'm really happy that Restaurant Collective and Pilla are working together, and that you've given our members such a great discount on the app, and I'm sure that it will help them as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me as well. Really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. And Paul says, thanks, Liam. Great presentation. Adopting smarter and simpler working practices is so important, particularly at the moment. Pilla is a great solution, and I couldn't agree more. I think we need to help ourselves as much as we can, and this is a great way of, as you said, an overview of the situation and then automating it. I think it will just help in the points that we need: time and compliance.
100%.
Perfect. And Jeremy also says, good presentation.
Thank you, Jeremy.
We're getting all the approvals. Well, thank you so much, Liam. And thank you guys also for watching. We will be uploading this on YouTube, so you can come back anytime and see all this incredible information. And I will be adding in all our links so you can, and no mention of football. I know we've been, you've ruined it now. I'll be adding in all our links so that you too can become a member of Restaurant Collective and can benefit from just one of the incredible deals that we have on being with Pilla, getting 10% discount on this incredible app that can help you work smarter and not harder. Thank you very much, Liam, again. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and have a great day.